My husband said he was tired of supporting me, so I let him feed his own family with his own money. The first thing you need to understand is that raw pasta makes a very specific sound when someone snaps it in half. It is not loud exactly. It is small, sharp, and humiliating, like a tiny bone breaking in a room where everyone is pretending not to see the body. That was the sound Mark's mother made at my dining room table. Diane Bennett sat in the chair she had unofficially claimed 3 years earlier, the one closest to the kitchen, because it gave her the best angle for criticizing whatever came out of my oven. Her lipstick was still perfect. Her hair was still sprayed into that helmeted shape she wore to church and family dinners and medical appointments, where she wanted nurses to feel inferior. Her canvas tote bag sat open by her feet, already waiting. That tote bag mattered. It was not a purse. It was not a cute reusable shopping bag. It was an empty stomach declaration of intent. Inside were 6 plastic containers with blue lids, 2 foil pans, a stack of zip-top bags, and the quiet expectation that by the end of the afternoon, my refrigerator would be empty and hers would be full. Across from her sat Aaron, Mark's older brother, looking exhausted in the specific way parents of 3 children look exhausted. Physically present, spiritually bargaining with God for bedtime. His wife Megan kept her hands folded in her lap, eyes flicking between the plates and the children. Their kids, 7, 5, and 3, sat with the kind of confused silence only children can manage when they have been promised food and handed evidence instead. And then there was my husband. Mark stood beside the table with sweat darkening the collar of his gray t-shirt. He had placed 3 paper plates in the middle of the dining room, like he was serving a tasting menu at a restaurant specializing in depression. On each plate sat dry, uncooked penne pasta. No sauce, no salad, no bread, no meat, no butter, just hard yellow tubes straight from the box, arranged with the desperate care of a man who had run out of options and dignity at the same time. Diane picked up one piece, stared at it, and snapped it in half. "Mark," she said slowly, "this is raw." Mark swallowed. "I know. I had a problem with the water." "With the water?" Aaron asked. "With the pasta," Mark corrected, then immediately looked like he regretted speaking at all. I had been standing in the hallway for the last 2 minutes, listening to my husband's financial independence arrive at its natural destination. I was wearing black leggings, a soft cream sweater, and the calm expression of a woman who had stopped begging reality to be fair. Diane saw me first. Her eyes sharpened. "Claire!" I stepped into the dining room. Everyone turned. For 3 years, whenever I entered that room on a Saturday afternoon, the table looked like something from a lifestyle magazine. Prime rib resting under foil, salmon glazed with honey and mustard, warm garlic rolls wrapped in linen, scalloped potatoes bubbling at the edges, salad bowls bright with herbs and citrus, charcuterie boards with imported cheese. Diane always called too fancy, while packing half of it to take home. Chocolate tarts, lemon bars, homemade lemonade, wine, coffee, fruit, and usually something special for the kids because I was foolish enough to think kindness stayed kindness when you gave it to family. That day, I looked at the raw pasta and said, "Eat up. This is what financial independence tastes like." Diane's chair scraped back. "Have you lost your mind?" "No," I said. "I found my receipts. This is humiliating." "That part we agree on. You are embarrassing your husband in front of his family." I looked at Mark. He did not look angry. Not yet. He looked terrified. There is a difference. Anger expects to win. Terror knows the bill has come due. Diane pointed at the children. There are children here, Claire, and yet no one brought food for them. We come here every Saturday. Yes, I said. I noticed. Megan's face flushed. Aaron looked down at the table. Diane, unfortunately, had never been held accountable by silence, so she mistook it for weakness. She grabbed her tote bag and lifted it slightly, as if preparing to leave in righteous disgust. The containers inside rattled. I looked at the bag, then at her. Funny, I said. You brought containers for leftovers, but somehow no one brought money for groceries. The room went still. Diane's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That was when I knew the afternoon would be ugly. Not loud, maybe, not violent, but ugly in the way truth becomes ugly when it finally has witnesses. And no, the raw pasta was not where the story began. It began 3 weeks earlier, on a Wednesday night in our Chicago townhouse, when my husband looked me straight in the eye and told me he was tired of supporting me. The wild part was that I did not cry, I did not yell. I smiled because I had every receipt. Before Mark became the man sweating over uncooked penne, we had what I thought was a good marriage. Imperfect, ordinary, and safe in the ways I believed mattered. We lived in a narrow brick townhouse on the north side of Chicago. I was 32, a senior operations manager at an international logistics company, earning around $8,300 a month before bonuses. At home, I cooked. I cooked because it steadied me. Most weekdays, I woke at 6, moved quietly so I would not wake Mark, made real coffee, and put together breakfasts that looked more careful than rushed. Eggs with herbs, sourdough, fruit, sometimes smoked salmon. Mark would come downstairs around 7:15, hair damp from the shower, scrolling his phone, and kiss the top of my head. Smells amazing, he would say. I believe that meant gratitude. Now I know sometimes people compliment the warmth of a fire without noticing who keeps bringing the wood. Mark was 35 and worked as a structural drafting specialist. He made around $5,600 a month, which was not poverty by any reasonable definition. He was good at his job. Detail-oriented, careful, patient with drawings in a way he was not patient with bills. He liked expensive gadgets, craft beer bars, new headphones, obscure mechanical keyboards, and giving his mother money whenever she called something an emergency. Diane's emergencies were usually emotional with a receipt attached. I called it none of my business at first, because I believed adulthood meant letting your partner make choices with their own money. The problem was that Mark's money was always his money, and my money had somehow become the weather system our household lived under. When the joint account ran short, I covered it. Utilities, groceries, towels, cleaning supplies, birthday gifts, medicine, plumbers, random household emergencies. I paid quietly and kept the house smooth. I was good at paying. I was good at solving. I was so good at making life smooth that I accidentally made myself invisible. I did not mind in the beginning. That is the dangerous part. Most resentment does not start as resentment. It starts as generosity, repeated too many times without acknowledgement. He did not notice who bought the groceries. He just opened the refrigerator and food appeared. He did not notice who remembered his mother's birthday. He just signed the card. He did not notice who cleaned the kitchen after his family left. He just said he was tired and went upstairs. He did not notice that I started cutting back on things I wanted so I could keep feeding everyone else the life they expected. And still, I thought I was loved. I did not understand yet that kindness can become a contract if you give it to entitled people long enough. The Saturday dinner started 3 years earlier. after Aaron and Megan had their third child. Megan was exhausted. Diane suggested family dinners at our house because my kitchen was bigger and I cooked better. And everyone agreed with the speed of people volunteering someone else's labor. The first few dinners were sweet. I made roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Aaron brought wine. Megan helped clear plates. Diane made a comment about the chicken being a touch dry, but I let it roll off me because Diane's personality had been cured in vinegar and stored improperly. Mark squeezed my shoulder after everyone left and said, "You're amazing." Again, I mistook observation for appreciation. Then the dinners grew. Diane arrived earlier and stayed later. Aaron stopped bringing wine. Megan offered to help, then disappeared into motherhood. Mark treated Saturday morning as leisure, while I shopped, prepped, cooked, served, cleaned, and smiled. The meals became excessive. Prime rib, salmon, garlic rolls, scalloped potatoes, salads, charcuterie, homemade lemonade, chocolate tarts, and special food for the kids. Each Saturday cost $160 to $240 before anyone counted time, wine, utilities, or cleaning. Diane never arrived empty-handed. She arrived with her tote bag. At first, I thought the containers were thoughtful. Then I watched Diane criticize the meal while packing the best parts of it. Salmon needed more lemon, but it went into her container. Rolls were dangerous, but 4 went into foil. Roast was too pink, but the center slices went home with her. Megan watched this with guilt pressed into her face. Aaron avoided eye contact. Mark said nothing. I laughed it off. That sentence should be engraved on the tombstone of half the women in America. Then one Saturday in late October, Diane stood over a roast I had spent hours preparing. It was crusted with herbs, resting perfectly, juices shining under the kitchen lights. She cut into it before I had finished serving the salad. "This is very good," she said, which should have warned me. Diane only complimented when she was loading a weapon. "But you really should watch your spending, Claire. Realistically, this kind of food is not sustainable." As she said it, she placed the 2 best center slices into her container. Megan froze. Aaron stared into his beer. Mark, standing right beside me, smiled vaguely like he had heard weather. Something in my chest cooled. Not broke. Not yet. Just cooled. That night, after everyone left and the dishwasher hummed like an exhausted animal, I opened my budgeting spreadsheet. The receipts told the truth in a language nobody could interrupt. More than $9,000 in 1 year for Saturday dinners, almost $27,000 across 3 years, before utilities, cleaning supplies, gifts, or my time. I stared at the number for a long time. Mark came downstairs around 1 in the morning for water. "You okay?" he asked. I looked at him. "Do you know how much your family dinners cost?" He blinked, already halfway to not caring. "I don't know." "Why?" "Just curious." "Don't stress about it. They love coming here." Then he kissed my cheek and went back upstairs. That was the first time I understood the difference between generosity and being harvested. The sentence that killed something in me came from Mark, but it was not born entirely in him. It was planted. The seed had a name, Travis Cole. Travis was recently divorced, permanently bitter, and committed to turning every lunch break into a warning label. After the divorce, he became Mark's unofficial prophet of financial doom. At first, Mark told me the stories like gossip. Travis says his ex took half his savings. Travis says joint accounts are basically a trap. Travis says men have to protect themselves before it's too late. I would answer carefully. Travis's marriage is not our marriage. Mark would shrug. I know. I'm just saying. Just saying is how people test how much poison the room will tolerate. Then Diane started reinforcing it. She sent Mark articles about separate finances. Not neutral articles either, the kind with titles like Why Modern Couples Need Financial Independence and Stop Letting Marriage Destroy Your Money. She began making comments at dinner. In my day, women wanted to be provided for, she would say. Now everyone says they want equality, but somehow men still pay. I would look at the meal in front of her and wonder if she had developed a medical allergy to irony. Mark started saying phrases that did not sound like him. Financial boundaries, autonomy, protecting both parties, avoiding resentment. They sounded good, which made them more dangerous. Good language can hide bad math. The ambush happened during a Saturday dinner in November. That night, I had made short ribs, polenta, salad, and chocolate cake. Diane waited until she was packing the best slices of meat to say, "This kind of food is not sustainable." Halfway through dessert, she folded her napkin and said, "You know, I was reading that more couples are keeping their finances completely separate now. I think that is healthy." The table changed temperature. Mark stared at his cake. Aaron suddenly became fascinated with his fork. Megan looked at me with sympathy, which irritated me more than Diane's comment. Sympathy is not courage. I took a sip of coffee. Interesting, Diane smiled. It prevents misunderstandings. Each person handles their own money. Nobody feels used. I looked at the container by her feet. Used by whom? Her smile thinned. In general. In general, I repeated. Mark turned red. Diane pressed on. A man should not be expected to carry everything just because he is a husband. Something in Megan's face flickered. Aaron coughed. Mark whispered, "Mom." I leaned back. That sounds like something a person should discuss privately with their spouse, not over a dinner someone else cooked. Diane's eyes hardened. I'm just saying modern women should not be afraid of fairness. I smiled then, not warmly. I love fairness. Mark looked at me quickly. He should have been afraid earlier. A few nights later, he said we needed to talk. Those 5 words have never introduced anything anyone wanted to hear. We were in the kitchen. I was cleaning herbs from a cutting board after making dinner. Mark stood by the island, arms crossed, doing the posture men do when they have rehearsed courage in the car. I think we should separate our finances, he said. I dried my hands slowly. Okay, what does that mean to you? He seemed surprised I had not exploded. It means we each manage our own paycheck. We already have personal accounts. I mean, more fully. Like, we each pay our own way. Split shared bills, no assumptions. What assumptions are we having? He shifted. I just think it's smart. Travis said, "There he is. Don't do that." Do what? Make it sound like I can't have my own thoughts. Then have one without Travis's name attached. His jaw tightened. This is exactly what I mean. Money creates control. I looked around our kitchen. The refrigerator I had paid to repair, the groceries I had bought, the counters I had wiped, the dinner I had cooked cooling on plates behind him. Have I controlled your spending? I asked. No. Have I ever told you not to buy gadgets? No. Have I ever stopped you from helping your mother? That's not the point. Have I ever asked you for spending money? No, but have I ever made you feel like your paycheck belonged to me? He looked away. It's more about preventing future resentment. Whose resentment? Silence. I waited. Waiting is underrated. People reveal themselves when you stop rescuing them from the sound of their own thoughts. Mark rubbed his forehead. I just feel like I'm always expected to support this household. I almost laughed because the sentence was so absurd it deserved an audience. But he was not finished. He looked at me with frustration, embarrassment, and something uglier. Conviction borrowed from people who had never washed our sheets or paid our gas bill. From this paycheck forward, we should manage our money separately, he said. I'm tired of supporting you. There are insults that bruise because they are loud, and there are insults that amputate because they are calm. Mark's sentence was calm. He did not spit it. He did not scream it. He delivered it like a tired man asking for better parking, and that was what made it unforgivable. He had not lost control. He had summarized me. I remember noticing ridiculous details while he stood there. The sauce spot on the stove I had not wiped yet. The wedding photo on the small shelf near the pantry. The hum of the dishwasher I had loaded alone. My body wanted to shake. My face did not. Years of crisis management had taught me that if something is on fire, you do not argue with the flames. You locate the extinguisher. There it was. Not a mistake. Not a slip. A sentence shaped like a verdict. Inside my head, years of quiet payments and invisible work lined up. Winter heating bills, Diane's forgotten birthday gifts, Saturday cleanup, mortgage shortfalls, groceries, and all the mornings I had mistaken being useful for being loved. Then there was the oldest version, the tired one. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply reached for the ledger. I looked at my husband and finally understood that he did not see me. Not really. He saw comfort and assumed it came from somewhere beneath him. Mark expected tears, or a fight, or a long emotional debate where he could accuse me of overreacting and then feel generous for comforting me. Instead, I smiled. "You're right," I said. "Separate finances sound perfect." His face changed. "Really?" "Yes. I mean, we should talk through details. We can start tomorrow." "Tomorrow? From this paycheck forward, right?" He blinked. I rinsed the cutting board, placed it in the rack, and turned off the kitchen light. He thought he had started a negotiation. What he actually started was an audit. The next morning, I made breakfast for one. It was beautiful. I made an herb omelet, avocado toast, smoked salmon, grapefruit juice, and coffee. One place setting, one plate, one new era. I set one place at the kitchen island. Mark came downstairs in his work shirt, scrolling his phone. "Smells good." "Thank you." He waited. I ate a bite of omelet. He looked around. "Where's mine?" "In your budget." He laughed once. "Come on." I looked at him pleasantly. "What? You didn't make me breakfast?" "I made my breakfast." "Claire." "Mark." His smile faded. "Are we doing this?" "I thought we already were." "It's breakfast." "It is. And from this paycheck forward, we each manage our own money. Food is money." He stared at my plate like it had betrayed him personally. "You're taking this too literally," he said. "I am taking it exactly literally. That's usually what fairness requires." He muttered something and opened the refrigerator. Then he stopped. Every item I had bought had a pink label. Claire. Eggs, yogurt, salmon, berries, cheese, coffee creamer, spinach, meal prep containers, leftover soup, even the good mustard. He shut the refrigerator slowly. "What is this?" "Separate inventory." "You labeled the food?" "I did." "That's insane." "No, Mark. It is financially independent." He opened a cabinet. More labels. My coffee pods, my tea, my granola, my olive oil, my dark chocolate, my pasta, my spices, because I refuse to let someone accuse me of being supported while using my saffron like community property. That afternoon, I bought a small pantry cabinet with a lock. Coffee, olive oil, chocolate, pasta, snacks, baking ingredients, and the maple syrup Diane loved to criticize all went inside. Mark came home and saw it. "You bought a locked pantry?" "Yes." "For food?" "For my food." "We're married." "We were married yesterday, too." He flinched, but not enough. His first grocery trip happened that evening. He went after work, annoyed and confident. He returned with white bread, hot dogs, frozen pizza rolls, instant noodles, cheap mayonnaise, a bag of shredded cheese, and a 12-pack of beer. No fruit, no vegetables, no coffee, no eggs, no plan. He placed the bags on the counter like a man returning from battle. Happy? He asked. Ecstatic! That night, I made shrimp with garlic butter, sautéed greens, and a small glass of white wine. Mark boiled hot dogs until they split open like tiny crime scenes and ate them on white bread with mayonnaise because he forgot mustard. He watched me eat shrimp. I watched him discover consequences. By day 3, the house had become a museum of his assumptions. Laundry was first. "Did you wash my blue dress shirts?" he asked one morning, already irritated. "No, I need one." "My laundry is done. Yours is waiting for its independent operator." He stared at the hamper like it had betrayed him. "You've always done laundry on Wednesdays." "I have always done our laundry on Wednesdays. I now do my laundry on Wednesdays." He wore a wrinkled shirt to work. Bathroom supplies and coffee followed the same rule. My shampoo moved behind a lock. His cheap 2-in-1 sat on his shelf. My Nespresso pods disappeared into my cabinet, and when he complained before a meeting, I told him the grocery store opened at 7. He did not laugh. Neither did I. Bills were even better because numbers do not accept emotional manipulation. I sent him his half of utilities, internet, mortgage contribution, insurance, streaming services, and household supplies. When he complained about the gas bill, I said, "Chicago winter." He was silent. The dishes became a slow-motion disaster. I washed only what I used. His plates gathered in the sink with the confidence of mold applying for citizenship. By Friday, he had no clean forks and ate noodles with a spoon. I did not gloat. Gloating would have made it easier for him to call me cruel. I simply lived beside the reality he had requested. And something strange happened. I started feeling lighter. Not happy, exactly. The wound was still there. I still loved him in the stupid way hearts love people who hurt them before the brain finishes filing the evidence. But I had energy. I was no longer feeding an invisible machine. I went to lunch with Rachel Kim, my friend and coworker, and ordered oysters because Mark hated them, and I had spent years avoiding foods he disliked even when he was not there. Rachel listened to the whole story. Travis, Diane, the sentence, the labels, the locked pantry, and said, "Claire, you are not punishing him. You are removing free services. People call it cruelty when the benefit stops." Mark cracked on the 6th day. He came into the living room where I was reading and said, "Can we stop this?" I looked up. "Stop what?" "This whole separate everything thing." "The fairness?" He rubbed his face. "You know what I mean?" "I know exactly what you mean." "I wanted us to be financially independent, not roommates." "Then you should have understood that shared comfort is built from shared responsibility." He sat across from me. He looked tired, hungry, and offended by both conditions. "I didn't mean you were a burden." I closed the book. "You said you were tired of supporting me." "I was frustrated." "Frustration tells the truth badly." He looked down. For 1 second, I almost softened. That was the dangerous part. I saw my husband, not the sentence. I saw the man who used to bring me soup when I was sick and rub my feet during tax season and whispered jokes during Diane's monologues. I missed him. I missed us. Then he said, "Maybe you're proving my point by making money such a weapon." The softness froze. "I didn't weaponize money," I said. "I stopped letting you weaponize my kindness." He had no answer. Saturday arrived like a test neither of us had studied for. Normally, by Saturday morning, the kitchen would smell like onions, garlic, butter, yeast, something roasting, and something cooling. That Saturday, I slept until 9:30, made coffee, and sat by the window with a book. Mark entered around 10, squinting at his phone. Then I watched the memory hit him. "My family's coming at 1. "Yes." "When are you starting the food?" "I'm not." He stared. "What do you mean you're not?" "I mean, I am not cooking." "But it's Saturday." Very observant. "Claire." "Mark." He inhaled sharply. "Their family. They are your guests. Your guests are your expense. My expense? Your mother supports separate finances. This will be an excellent opportunity for her to experience them. He looked genuinely panicked. You can't just not cook. I can. Watch how smoothly it is happening. They'll be here in 3 hours. Then you should decide whether to cook, order delivery, buy catering, or cancel. Delivery for 9 people is expensive. I set down my mug. Yes. He looked at me. I waited. His face shifted when the point finally reached him. Cooking for 9 people has always been expensive, I said. He grabbed his keys and left. The grocery store panic was immediate and severe. I know because he called me 4 times. I did not answer. He texted me pictures of frozen lasagna, party wings, a sushi tray, deli potato salad, and a grocery store sheet cake. Will this be enough? I replied. Your guests, your call. He came home with frozen pizzas, frozen wings, deli potato salad, cheap sushi, a frozen lasagna, 2 bags of salad mix, a sheet cake, and the expression of a man who had spent $187 and still had no meal. He had never understood that ingredients are not the same as dinner. The kitchen became chaos. Pizza burned at the edges and stayed doughy in the middle. Wings scorched outside and stayed pink near the bone. Lasagna remained cold in the center. Sushi turned warm and sad. Potato salad tasted like mayonnaise had promoted itself to management. I walked in once for sparkling water. Mark stood over a smoking tray, hair damp with sweat. I looked at the oven, looked at him, said nothing. Silence can be very generous. It lets people hear themselves failing. Diane arrived at exactly 1:15, tote bag in hand. Of course she did. She swept into the kitchen and stopped. What is that smell? Lunch, Mark said weakly. She looked past him. Where is Claire? In the living room, I called. Diane appeared in this doorway like an offended ghost. You're not cooking? No. Are you sick? Not anymore. Her eyes narrowed. Aaron and Megan arrived with the kids, who immediately asked where the rolls were. Mark served the food in the dining room. Served as generous, he transported damage. The children refused the wings. Megan tried the potato salad and smiled with the bravery of a woman negotiating with poison. Aaron cut into the lasagna, saw the cold center, and quietly put down his fork. Diane took 1 bite of pizza and made a face so dramatic it deserved lighting. Mark, this is burnt. He flinched. The wings are not cooked properly. You could make someone sick. His face reddened. And why is the sushi warm? I leaned against the doorway. Hurts, doesn't it? Diane turned. Excuse me? I looked at Mark, not her. Now imagine hearing that after 5 hours of work and $200 of groceries. The room went quiet. Diane set down her fork. This is childish. No, I said. This is educational. Megan's eyes filled. Claire! I shook my head gently. Not yet. Aaron cleared his throat. Mark, maybe we should have ordered something. With what money? Mark snapped. Then he immediately regretted it. Diane stiffened. You do not speak to your brother that way. Mark laughed once, sharp and humorless. Really? Because apparently everything costs money, Mom. Of course it costs money. Then why have we been acting like Claire's groceries grow in the backyard? Diane looked offended, which was easier for her than looking guilty. Claire enjoys cooking. I did, I said. She turned to me. Then why punish everyone for something between you and your husband? Because everyone enjoyed the benefits of what was between me and my husband. Megan put a hand over her mouth. Aaron looked like he wanted to disappear into the table grain. The worst part of watching Mark's first Saturday collapse was that nobody rushed to help him the way everyone had always assumed I would help them. Diane criticized. Aaron went quiet. Megan looked guilty. The children complained. Every person at that table waited for someone else to fix the problem. And for the first time, the designated fixer was not moving. Diane went for the old weapon. This is not how a wife behaves. I smiled faintly. I used to cook because I thought I was loved. I stopped because I realized I was expected. That one landed. Even Diane heard it. The children ended up eating cake and the least burned pizza corners. I did not rescue the meal. That was important. I gave the kids fruit from my labeled drawer because I was angry, not monstrous. But I did not cook. After everyone left, Mark stood in the wreckage of the kitchen. The sink was full. The trash smelled like burnt cheese and defeat. A streak of potato salad had somehow reached the cabinet door. "Can we stop now?" he asked. I opened my laptop. He looked at it with dread. Good. Spreadsheets should inspire respect. I turned the screen toward him. Saturday dinners. 1 year, a little over $9,000. 3 years, just under $27,000. Regular groceries, roughly $6,000 per year, with me covering most overages. Utilities, around $3,000 annually, beyond what you notice. Household goods, $1,200. Gifts for both families, about $2,500. Extra transfers I made to the joint account so bills cleared here, and here. His face drained slowly. "Claire, you said you were tired of supporting me." He stared at the numbers. I leaned closer. "You weren't supporting me, Mark. You were living inside a lifestyle I funded." He sat down like his knees had forgotten their job. For a moment, I thought that would be enough. I thought humiliation plus math might create wisdom. I had underestimated Diane. A week later, she called Mark and announced they were coming again. I heard his voice from the hallway. "Mom, not this Saturday." A pause. "No, it's not a good idea." Another pause. "I understand you're upset, but..." Then his tone changed. Softer, younger. "Mom, please don't do this." I knew then she was coming. Mark found me in the office. "They're coming at 1 tomorrow." I looked up from my laptop. "Who is they?" "My mom, Erin, Megan, the kids." "How exciting for you." He rubbed his hands over his face. "Can you please help me?" "No." "Claire, your mother, your guests, your budget." "She's doing this to prove a point." "Then let her pay for catering." "She won't." "I know." He looked miserable. "I'll order something." "Good. That's called planning." He ordered Italian catering, chicken parmesan, baked ziti, salad, breadsticks, tiramisu. The total was $348.76 before tip. He showed me the receipt like a child showing homework. "See?" he said. "Handled." Good. The pride lasted until Saturday morning when the restaurant called. I was in the kitchen making myself coffee when Mark walked in holding his phone, pale. "What happened?" I asked, though his face was already a full incident report. "The restaurant has a plumbing emergency." "Oh, they can't fulfill the order." "Unfortunate." "The refund will take 3 to 5 business days." "Standard. They'll be here in 90 minutes." I sipped my coffee. "That is less standard." He stared at me. "You're enjoying this." "No, I am not enjoying this. I am refusing to save you from it." He rushed to the store with almost no money left and bought cheap penny, generic marinara, white bread, and butter. Panic had reduced his entire meal plan to the word pasta. At home, he tried to boil 2 boxes in a pot, too small for one. The pasta foamed, stuck, scorched, and fused into a starchy brick. Then the spoon snapped. I heard the snap from the living room and closed my eyes. He cursed. Water hissed. A smoke alarm chirped once, then stopped as if even it had given up. With 15 minutes left, Mark threw away the ruined pasta. Then I heard cabinets opening, paper plates sliding, and the dead silence of a man choosing denial because reality had no remaining doors. The doorbell rang. Diane arrived with her tote bag. She really did. Erin and Megan followed, the kids running in ahead of them, asking if we had garlic bread. Mark said nothing. He placed the paper plates on the dining table. Dry penne rolled slightly when the plates touched down. That brings us back to Diane snapping one piece in half and saying, "Mark, this is raw." And me stepping into the room to say, "Eat up. This is what financial independence tastes like." Diane's explosion tried to gather speed after that. Diane tried to fold her arms with dignity, but the tote bag ruined the effect. It sat beside her ankle, open-mouthed and empty, displaying every container she had expected to fill. I did not need to point at it again. Everyone could see it. That bag had become a witness. "You have made your point," she snapped. "Not yet. You are humiliating my son." "No," I said. "Your son humiliated himself by demanding a life he did not understand." Mark closed his eyes. Diane pointed at me. "Marriage is not supposed to be this cold." "Correct." That is why it was impressive when Mark managed to freeze it with one sentence. Aaron whispered, "Mom, maybe sit down." "I will not sit down and be insulted in my own son's home." I looked at the tote. "That bag has taken more food from this home than some renters take furniture from apartments." Megan made a small sound. Diane's face reddened. "How dare you?" "I dare because I paid for it." The words came out calm. That made them sharper. I did not raise my voice because I did not need to. I had spent years confusing volume with power. Power is sometimes a spreadsheet opened at the right table. I placed my laptop on the sideboard and turned the screen toward them. Diane looked away first. People who do not want truth always become allergic to evidence. "No," I said. "Look, Mark did, Aaron did, Megan did. I had organized everything. Grocery receipts, averages, dates, transfers, household bills, Mark's monthly contributions, my overages, Saturday dinner totals, gifts, utilities, cleaning supplies, and notes, not emotional notes, numbers, clean, ugly numbers. In 3 years, I said, this family ate roughly $27,000 out of my pocket on Saturdays alone, and somehow I was the freeloader. Nobody spoke. Even the kids were quiet. I continued, because once truth has waited that long, it deserves full sentences. "Diane, you suggested separate finances because you thought it would protect Mark's money. You forgot Mark's comfort was being protected by mine." Her mouth trembled with rage. "I am his mother." "You are also an adult." Aaron lowered his head. "Megan," I said, softer now, "you were exhausted. I know that. I saw it. But you saw what was happening too." Tears filled her eyes. "I know. Aaron, you brought wine twice and then stopped. You watched your mother pack food every week." He nodded slowly, shame darkening his face. "And Mark," I said, "you watched me feed your family, fund our home, cover shortfalls, and remember what you forgot. Then you called yourself my supporter." Mark's face crumpled. Mark opened his mouth once while I was speaking, then closed it. That mattered more than his tears. For years, he had interrupted discomfort with explanations. Work, stress, his mother's personality, my sensitivity, the harmlessness of tradition. At that table, surrounded by raw pasta and people he had failed to feed, he finally had no explanation bigger than the truth. "I did not punish you," I said. "I gave you exactly what you asked for." Diane tried one more time. "This is private marital business." "No," Aaron said quietly. Everyone turned to him. He looked at his mother. "She's right." Diane recoiled like he had slapped her. Aaron's voice shook, but he kept going. "We weren't visiting. We were using her. I didn't want to admit it because it made Saturdays easier for us. But she's right." Megan started crying then, not loudly, just the tired, guilty kind of crying people do when they finally stop defending themselves. "I knew it was too much," she said. "Claire, I knew. I was overwhelmed and I let myself accept your kindness like it was owed to me. It wasn't. I am so sorry. I looked at her. For the first time that day, something in me softened. Not all the way, but enough to hurt. Thank you, I said. Mark sank into a chair. His hands covered his face. I listened to Travis, he said, voice thick, and Mom, and I let it make me stupid. Diane snapped. You are not stupid for wanting fairness. Mark looked up at her. Mom, stop. She froze. He turned to me. His eyes were wet. You weren't living off me. I was living off you. The room absorbed the sentence. He wiped his face. I am so sorry. I know that does not fix it. I know saying it now, in front of everyone, after this disaster, is late. But I am sorry. I made you feel like a burden when you were carrying us. The apology was real. I could feel that. But reality is not magic. It does not reverse because someone finally names it. I nodded once. If we end the financial separation, there will be conditions. Mark sat straighter. Anything. Full financial transparency. Shared ledger, fair contributions based on income. No silent shortfalls. Monthly family dinners, not weekly. Everyone contributes. No containers unless I offer. Diane gives no marital advice. Travis stays out of our marriage. And you never call me dependent unless you can prove it with numbers. Mark nodded through all of it. Yes. Diane started to object. Now wait. Aaron said, Mom, stop. And for once, she did. Then the 7-year-old lifted one piece of penne between two fingers and asked, Are we supposed to eat the crunchy noodles? A strangled laugh moved through the room. It was not happiness. It was pressure escaping. I looked at the children and sighed because my anger had limits and they were sitting at the table hungry through no fault of their own. Give me 20 minutes, I said. Mark looked up. Claire, you don't have to. I'm not doing it for you. I went into the kitchen, unlocked my pantry, and made the simplest meal that could still feel human. Omelets with cheese and herbs, toast, a quick salad, fruit, buttered bread for the kids. Nothing elaborate, nothing expensive, nothing packable into Diane's containers without making her look like the villain in a church play. Everyone ate quietly. Diane did not criticize one bite. Her tote bag stayed empty by her feet. That was the day everyone finally understood the price of my kindness. Unfortunately, so did I. After the raw pasta trial, life became functional in a way that looked like healing from a distance. Mark changed. I need to be honest about that. It would be easier to make him a cartoon villain who learned nothing and stormed off into a future of instant noodles and resentment. But real life is less satisfying and more complicated. Mark did change. He started contributing properly, not vaguely, not with, I'll get the next one. Actual transfers, actual percentages, actual conversations. We built a shared ledger, and every Friday evening, we reviewed household spending like two adults who had finally discovered civilization. He learned to cook basic meals, do laundry, clean bathrooms, restock supplies, and notice work before it was announced. He stopped treating burned food like a conspiracy and stopped acting like toilet paper restocked itself through love. He also stopped talking to Travis about anything except work. I knew, because one evening he came home and said, Travis started on another rant about women and divorce. I waited, and I told him I was not discussing my marriage with someone who made failure his whole personality. I nodded. Good. Mark looked like he wanted more praise. I did not give it. Adults do not get standing ovations for not poisoning their own homes. Diane changed too, though not into a warm movie grandmother. She came once a month without the tote bag. And the first time she said, Thank you, Claire. I almost dropped the spoon. She stopped criticizing food, even brought salad once, and slowly understood that access to my generosity had conditions now. Megan apologized properly 2 weeks later over coffee. She did not excuse herself. She said she had been overwhelmed, had accepted my kindness because it made her life easier, and had been too cowardly to ask what it cost me. Drowning people can still pull others under, she said. That apology reached me because it had no escape hatch. I forgave her more easily than the others, maybe because she told the whole truth. Mark tried hardest. He brought coffee, asked about work, listened, thanked me for meals, and noticed chores without applause. He became the husband I used to believe I had, except now I saw the effort instead of assuming safety. He looked at me more carefully, as if I had become fragile. I was not fragile. I was edited. One night, about 4 months after the raw pasta incident, he stood in the doorway of our bedroom while I folded a sweater. "Do you forgive me?" he asked. I looked at him. He seemed genuinely afraid of the answer. "Yes," I said. Relief broke across his face. Then I continued, because mercy without honesty is just another performance. But forgiveness is not restoration. His relief vanished. What does that mean? It means I am not carrying the anger every day. It means I am not trying to punish you. It means I believe you understand what you did. I placed the sweater in the drawer. It does not mean I feel the same. He sat on the edge of the bed. Can you? I don't know. I touched his back because love does not disappear on command. But even while comforting him, I felt the distance. Not hatred, just a guardrail where a bridge used to be. For months after, I would sometimes wake before dawn and feel the old instinct return. Make coffee for two. Check the fridge for his lunch. Plan Saturday before anyone asked. Then I would lie still and remind myself that love is not proven by how quickly you abandon your own boundary. Sometimes the most loving thing I could do for both of us was let him remain responsible. I kept the private savings account. At first, it held my bonus. Then another, then regular deposits. I told myself it was an emergency fund, which was true. I also called it my exit fund, quietly, in the private courtroom of my mind. That was true too. 15,000, 30, 50, more. I did not hide household money or lie. I simply kept part of what I earned in a place that reminded me love is not a financial safety net. The wound was not really money, raw pasta, or Diane's tote. It was Mark looking at the life I built around us and calling himself my supporter. 2 years passed. 2 years passed. From the outside, our marriage looked peaceful. We still lived in the townhouse, shared meals, slept in the same bed, traveled once, laughed sometimes, and hosted monthly dinners where everyone contributed. Friends thought we were fine. Maybe we were, in the way a cracked bowl can still hold soup if you do not look too closely. One winter night, snow tapped the windows while we sat in the living room after Mark made chili. Nothing was wrong, which was probably why he asked. "Do you still love me?" I looked over at him. He looked older in humility, not years. Shame had improved parts of him and aged others. "Yes," I said. His shoulders eased. Then he heard what I had not said. "But not the way you did before," he whispered. I looked at the snow. "No," I said, "not the way I did before." He was quiet for a long time. "Can I earn it back?" I wanted to lie. A comforting lie would have been easy. Marriage survives on many things, and one of them is sometimes choosing gentleness over precision. But I had paid too much for truth to decorate it now. "I don't know," I said. "Some things do not grow back after they die." He nodded slowly. His eyes shone, but he did not argue. That was one of the ways I knew he had changed. The old Mark would have defended himself against my pain. This Mark sat with it. "I hate that I did that to us," he said. "So do I." He reached for my hand. I let him take it. That was the complicated part. I still wanted his hand. I still loved the shape of it, the warmth, the familiar pressure of his thumb. Betrayal does not erase tenderness, it just makes tenderness less innocent. We sat like that while the snow fell. People ask why I stayed. I stayed because Mark changed, because I still loved parts of him, and because leaving was not the only way to choose myself. But staying was not the same as returning. Mark got the joint account back, monthly family dinners, my laughter sometimes, my hand in his, and a careful life rebuilt with rules. But he learned the true punishment. He lost the woman who trusted him completely. And Diane? Diane has never brought that tote bag into my house again. Sometimes I pack leftovers myself now. One container for Aaron and Megan, one for Diane if there is enough and if I feel like it. She accepts it with both hands and says, "Thank you, Claire." I do not regret agreeing to separate finances. I regret that it took me so long to separate truth from habit. The experiment revealed everything: who contributed, who consumed, who apologized, and who only changed after consequences. Fairness is not a slogan thrown across a dinner table while someone else serves dessert. Fairness has invoices and chores. It knows who bought the butter, carried the trash, and stood at the sink after midnight. I am not bitter anymore. Bitter is what I was when I still wanted the old story to be true. Now, I am free in a quieter way, still married, still here, but no longer dependent on anyone's recognition to believe in my own worth. My labor has a name, my money has a home, and my kindness has a door that locks. The raw pasta became family folklore. Aaron once brought a box of penne to a barbecue and everyone groaned. Diane did not laugh. I appreciated that. I keep one piece of uncooked penne in my desk drawer at work. Whenever I am tempted to overextend myself for people who assume I will absorb the cost, I look at it. A small, hard reminder. Kindness without boundaries becomes inventory for entitled people. Love without respect becomes labor. And the people who call you a burden while eating from your hands should be invited, calmly and completely, to feed themselves. Mark got the joint account back. He got the monthly family dinners back. He even got my forgiveness. But he never got the old me back. She died the night he called her a burden,